When we talk about people who hide their true emotions, we are not simply referring to individuals who are shy or introverted. We're talking about those who construct an internal world so tightly sealed that even the closest people around them rarely gain access to what is genuinely happening beneath the surface. These individuals often learn early in life that vulnerability is dangerous, unpredictable, or simply unrewarding. They perceive emotional exposure as a form of weakness, almost like handing someone a weapon that could later be used against them. Because of this, they develop a deep habit of emotional camouflage, carefully adjusting facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language to ensure that nothing authentic slips through the cracks. Over time, this becomes less of a conscious decision and more of an automatic psychological defense mechanism, functioning silently in the background of every interaction. What makes this especially complex is that these individuals are not emotionless. They often feel emotions intensely, sometimes more strongly than others. The difference is that they internalize everything, creating a silent world where feelings are processed in solitude, far away from anyone who might misinterpret or mishandle what they truly feel. As these people grow, their emotional suppression becomes interwoven with their identity. They often appear calm, controlled, and highly self-sufficient to others. But internally, they may experience powerful emotional storms that no one knows about. Many of them learn to hide their feelings as a survival strategy, especially if they grew up in environments where expressing emotions led to conflict, punishment, or invalidation. Childhood experiences play a major role. A child who frequently hears "stop crying," "be strong," or "you're overreacting" eventually learns that feelings are unacceptable. So they build a facade, and as adults, they become experts at presenting what others expect from them, not who they truly are. Their friends may describe them as hard to read, mysterious, or emotionally distant, but these labels rarely scratch the surface of what is actually happening beneath. In their hidden internal universe, emotions accumulate like unspoken memories, each one carefully stored away in a mental vault where no one else is allowed. The more they hide, the more unfamiliar they become with their own emotional needs, as if the ability to express themselves fades with each passing year. When someone consistently hides their emotions, it often leads to an unusual paradox. People assume they are strong, confident, and composed, but the truth is that many of them struggle deeply with feelings they have never learned to process honestly. Instead of communicating discomfort, sadness, anger, or fear, they convince themselves that the safest option is silence. This creates long-term consequences such as emotional numbness, anxiety, or even dissociation. They become so used to suppressing emotions that they start believing they should never bother others with their problems, even when they desperately need support. Their emotional world becomes a locked house, and although they hold the key, they have become too accustomed to keeping the door shut. Over time, this disconnect can make relationships difficult. Partners, friends, and family may feel that something is off, but they can't articulate what it is. They might sense the emotional distance, but misinterpret it as a lack of interest or affection. In reality, the emotionally hidden person cares deeply, but caring openly is a skill they never had the chance to learn. What makes hidden emotions so psychologically complex is the internal conflict they generate. These individuals long to be understood, yet fear being seen. They want connection, but connection requires vulnerability, something that feels threatening to them. Their minds operate like hypersensitive radar systems, constantly scanning for potential emotional risks. If a conversation begins to move toward deeper feelings, they instinctively retreat, change the subject, or shut down. They may laugh off painful experiences, make jokes to avoid seriousness, or adopt a cold, logical tone as a shield against emotional exposure. This behavior is not intentional deception. It is a coping mechanism built from years of discomfort with emotional honesty. Many of them also experience emotional delays. They might feel sadness or anger long after an event occurred because they initially blocked the emotion out. This delay makes processing feelings even more difficult. causing emotional buildup that eventually erupts in private moments far away from the eyes of others. Another important aspect of hidden emotional psychology is the role of self-judgment. These individuals often believe that their emotions are too much, inconvenient, or unworthy of attention. This makes them harsh on themselves and extremely forgiving of others. They prioritize being the strong one in every situation, the one who absorbs stress instead of showing it. Yet beneath this illusion of strength lies exhaustion, a type of emotional fatigue that builds slowly and silently. They fear that opening up will make them appear dramatic or weak, or that others will misunderstand them. As a result, they become their own emotional caretakers, trying to handle everything internally. But emotions were never meant to be managed alone. Humans are biologically wired for connection, and when someone denies themselves emotional expression for too long, it can lead to internal tension, overthinking, or even physical symptoms such as headaches, insomnia, or chest tightness. The body keeps the score, even when the mind refuses to acknowledge what it feels. Hidden emotions also influence how these individuals perceive others. Because they themselves fear emotional exposure, they tend to be hyper-aware of emotional shifts in the people around them. They become observers, watching, analyzing, detecting unspoken messages, subtle tones, and micro-expressions. Many of them develop a unique form of emotional intelligence that is outwardly focused. They can sense when someone else is upset, even before that person realizes it themselves. But ironically, they struggle to identify and express their own feelings. This creates a fascinating imbalance. They understand people deeply, yet feel deeply misunderstood. Their emotional awareness is highly developed, but their emotional communication remains underdeveloped. This makes relationships confusing for them. They may feel intensely connected to someone while simultaneously feeling unable to open up. Outsiders interpret this as emotional coldness, when in reality it is emotional overwhelm. In romantic relationships, the emotional gap becomes even more apparent. People who hide their emotions often love intensely, but quietly. They show affection through actions rather than words, and may struggle to verbalize what they truly feel. Their partners sometimes misinterpret this as disinterest or neglect. But the truth is that emotional expression triggers vulnerability, which triggers fear. They worry about being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. So they withhold, hoping their actions speak louder than their words. Unfortunately, actions alone are not always enough to sustain emotional connection, especially with partners who need verbal reassurance. When conflicts arise, these individuals may shut down instead of engaging emotionally, not because they don't care, but because confrontation feels overwhelming. They need time to process their inner world, and that silence can create tension or confusion in the relationship. At the core of hidden emotional psychology lies a deep desire for safety. Emotionally reserved individuals seek environments where they can finally relax and be themselves without fear. This is why they often bond strongly with people who display consistency, patience, and emotional stability. When they feel safe, they may slowly allow themselves to open up, revealing layers of emotion that others never suspected. But trust takes time, sometimes years, and even then, their self-protection mechanisms remain active. They might open up one day and withdraw the next. This inconsistency is not manipulation. It is the result of years spent unlearning emotional fear. Healing is not linear. It is a cycle of opening and retreating, learning and unlearning. Each small moment of emotional honesty becomes a victory, a step toward a more authentic version of themselves. One of the greatest misconceptions about emotionally hidden individuals is that they don't want connection. This could not be further from the truth. They crave connection more than most people, they just fear the consequences of it. Their emotional walls were built for protection during a time in their lives when vulnerability felt dangerous. But as adults, these walls become prisons. What they truly want is someone who listens without pressure, someone who reads the silence, someone who recognizes the difference between their calm exterior and their chaotic inner world. They need someone who understands that emotional expression takes time, patience, and trust. And perhaps most importantly, they need to learn that their feelings are not burdens. They are simply part of being human. Ultimately, the psychology of people who hide their emotions reveals a universal truth. No matter how much we suppress what we feel, emotions will always demand to be acknowledged. Hidden emotions shape behaviors, influence relationships, and quietly guide our decisions. But when these individuals finally learn to express what lies behind their silence, they begin to heal. Emotional honesty is not weakness, it is freedom. And for those who have spent their entire lives hiding behind emotional masks, discovering this truth can be transformative. Because beneath the calm, quiet exterior is a deeply emotional human being who longs to be seen, understood, and accepted without judgment. When that moment of acceptance finally arrives, it becomes a turning point that can change their entire life.